This episode is sponsored by Zoltick. There are some things in life that are okay to be a total crapshoot, like changing the milk you use in your coffee or ordering something off of TikTok shop impulsively. I've never done that before. I do that all the time. But some things shouldn't be crapshoots, like finding the right doctor for you. ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare high-quality in-network doctors, choose the right one for your needs, and click to instantly book an appointment. I have used ZocDoc, and it has made my life infinitely less crappy, truly, and also booking doctor's appointments infinitely easier and a process that I actually trust. So stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/X's. That's ZocDoc.com/X's. That's ZocDoc.com/X's. This episode is sponsored by Osea. Holiday season is coming up, and if you are like me and you're struggling to come up with gift ideas, especially for people who are tough to buy gifts for, Osea has you covered. You can get Osea's limited edition Super Glow body set, and it is packaged in a beautiful little package, so you don't even have to worry about wrapping your gift. How easy is that? It comes with 3 of Osea's best-selling products, and then you get to try them all in one little kit. Instead of having to buy them all individually, you get them all together. Give the gift of glow this season with clean, clinically tested skincare from Osea. And right now we have a special discount code just for our listeners. Get 10% off your first order site-wide when you go to OseaMalibu.com and you use the code Shannon. Okay, hi guys, welcome back to X's and O's. I'm so excited for today's episode. I think it is so good. It is like one of my favorite ones I've ever posted, so I hope you guys love it as much as I love it. As far as intro goes today, last week we had, I really tried to come up with some heartfelt words after the election results. This week, I am still feeling like a bit burnt out. I don't know how everyone else is feeling. I feel like the week right after the election results, I was just feeling very sad and down. And now everything just kind of feels like fake. Like I feel like maybe I'm disassociating a little bit from reality. And the more that the news comes out, the more I'm like, this cannot be real. So I feel like I'm just in a weird headspace personally. I don't know how y'all are feeling, but I am so happy to be filming at my house. I think that's helping me a lot. I'm loving bringing back like the set vibes and the bed vibes. And I think it really does like change the feel of these episodes. So I hope you guys are enjoying it. We're still, again, making changes to the set. So you may notice things changing. You may not notice them changing, but they will be changing still for a little while. We're almost done though, I'm pretty sure. Fingers crossed. The holidays are coming up. Thanksgiving is coming up. I don't know where you are in the world. I don't know where you're going home in the world, but I am sending you a little extra love for some strength going into the holidays. I don't know what kind of uncomfortable conversations you might be forced to have. I hope none. But if you are like many people in America, I'm sure there may be a convo or two that you don't want to have. Or if you're protecting your peace this holiday season and just celebrating with friends, I hope that you enjoy that time with them and also don't feel too lonely. I think growing up and when you like spend your first Thanksgiving not going home, it's kind of like a strange little feeling of, I don't know, you feel like grown up and sad at the same time. So if you're doing that, if you're experiencing that, also thinking about you. I'm thinking about all of you all the time. Enjoy this episode. Again, this episode was filmed pre-election results, just so you know. Okay, enjoy. Okay, guys, I just realized I did not understand the timing of when this episode was coming out because I didn't mention in the intro that I'm going on tour. I'm going on my own tour in March 2025 called the Hard Launch Tour. It will be a podcast recording each time with a different special guest, and I'm so excited for you guys to see who they will be. These are the cities that I will be traveling to: Toronto, New York, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, Chicago, Denver, Salt Lake City, Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, and Los Angeles. Okay, I need to calm down. I'm very excited. And fun fact, the San Francisco show will be on my birthday. So if you want to celebrate my birthday with me next year, come to my Hard Launch Tour. The tickets are for sale starting Wednesday, November 20th at 10 a.m. So unless you're watching this very early, they should probably be live right now for you to buy for the pre-sale. And then All the tickets will be on sale on Friday. Pre-sale tickets today, Wednesday, November 20th. All the tickets Friday. This Friday, 10 a.m. Okay, come see me. Come see me and Vanessa. Vanessa's coming on tour with me. She will be doing all of my content, like recording it, taking pictures, videos. So you guys can meet her and me for sure. And then depending on which city you're at, a different special guest. So yeah, you're going to have to come to see who it is, but I will definitely be there. Also, if your city or state or country is not on the list, then comment below and tell me where you want me to come, because I need to show people that there is proof that people want me there. So comment either here or on Instagram if you are somewhere and you're not in one of the cities that I already mentioned or countries. I'm down to travel. I love to travel. Okay, back to the regular scheduled programming. Yay. Okay, hi guys, my name's Shannon Beveridge. Welcome back to X's and O's, a podcast where we talk about queer relationships and sex. And today, my guest is none other than Ash Perez. If you've been a long-time watcher of the internet, or if you've ever watched a BuzzFeed video or two, you definitely will recognize Ash. They are also the newest edition of the Try Guys. And today we talked all things masculinity, being trans, what else did we talk about? Relationships, shots, men's bathrooms, and much, much more. So enjoy this episode. I'm obsessed with Ash. He is truly, literally one of my favorite guests I've ever had on this podcast. So I hope you like this episode as much as I did. Enjoy. How do you feel on camera now? You've been doing it for so long. Are you like so familiar?
Yeah, but it's weird because I took like a break and then I transitioned. So it's like being on camera again has been weird. And then I'm also getting to the point now where I just wasn't like recognized for a while, aside from like stealth people who like watched BuzzFeed back in the day who also got older with me. So they would kind of just be more like, oh, hey, like I used to watch your stuff. But now like doing Try Guys stuff, they still have a huge following and they have so many fans and younger, older, everyone. I like got recognized this morning after I was donating blood and I forgot about that feeling. Also donate blood. It's really,
I'm like,
it's a great thing to do.
Very impressed by that.
Yeah.
Good job. I can't remember the last time I donated blood. I feel like
you can do it every 56 days.
Do you do it every 56 days?
Pretty much.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you like so fine with shots? Are you taking testosterone shots?
Yeah, I am. So it's like the needle for donating blood is big. And I also do platelets sometimes.
Okay.
Is that bear? I love it.
Yeah, bear's screaming. I don't know if we'll
There's
pick
not
it
a
up.
real bear. There's a cat here
There's
named
a cat bear here. And he wants to be heard.
Yep.
So he might do that more. But I was just thinking about it because you were saying you do the allergy shots.
Yes.
And you're doing testosterone shots and you're donating blood all the time.
Yeah, I just love needles.
Yeah.
I actually don't. I've like started to get an aversion to, and I guess this is something that happens with trans people, like you'll go through periods where you get more averse to your shots because it's like this weird anticipation thing.
Yeah.
And you just never know how much it's going to hurt. I do them in my butt. People do them in other places, but my girlfriend's a nurse, so when I don't want to do it, she does it.
That's really, really nice.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
She actually gave me my first shot ever, and I was like, this is really romantic.
That's really special.
Yeah.
Like, that's like a whole, like, very intense moment, I feel, right?
It was like it was very much tied to, like, around the time we first started dating and then the first shot, so it's like anniversaries. Yeah.
That's so cute.
Yeah.
You've like been documenting also at least like your transition on TikTok with your badass hunky dude.
Yeah. That
right?
was a friend of mine because I was like, every trans person has to do the like, this is my voice one day on T or whatever. But I was like, I don't want to just like do a number. And I was like, what should I do? And one of my friends, I said something about feeling like Amanda Bynes on She's the Man.
Yeah.
And my friend Brooke was like, I say all the time, I'm a hunky dude. I'm a badass hunky dude. And now it's like kind of become a thing. So.
Yeah. It's completely your thing.
Yeah.
It's also I think it's such a smart thing to document because I have a lot of friends who are on T and I feel like they have a hard time seeing the changes that they're having.
Yes.
And I feel like it's crazy for me, especially I have like one friend in particular who I don't see that often. And so every time I see them, I'm like,
you're like, who are you?
You're changing a lot. And they're like, really? I feel like nothing is changing.
Yeah, it really helps with dysphoria. Like I have on my, my fridge is one of those ones that has like a for no reason at all a screen, but you can put pictures on there. And I'll see pictures of me just from a couple months ago and be like, that's what I look like a couple months ago.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy how fast our bodies can change in general. Like, it's just a wild
and it's
experience.
just puberty, like, and testosterone is so strong. And like, I tell people that a lot because, you know, a lot of people, I think like the difference between trans men and trans women is that testosterone is strong for both, but it's a lot harder for trans women to transition and then be passing because they've already gone through puberty with testosterone. And a lot of these effects are permanent. So, whereas like trans men, at some point you kind of just become stealth and then you're just living in the world as a dude, which is very strange.
I can't even imagine.
It's so weird.
Especially
and like,
because it is really different to be operating in this world as a woman. Like the standards, like everything is so
safety. The like getting in Uber and not being like, oh, there's a creepy dude. Like yesterday I went to go to like the corner store to go get grab a beer, and it was like late at night. I went just quickly. This dude who was not wearing shoes was like, "What's up, brother? What's your name?" And I was like, not afraid of him. I mean, I was like, who is this guy? But I wasn't afraid of him. Whereas if he had said that same thing to me as a woman and was like, hey, how are you doing? What's your name? I would have been like, oh God, here we go.
Totally. But did that change, like happen slowly? Like where you were thinking about how you're being perceived? Because I feel like if you've been socialized for so long one way, like I feel like it would take me a long time to realize someone's talking to me not as a woman. Like, you know what I mean?
When I'm walking by, there's like, my girlfriend laughs at me all the time because like I walked by another, dudes just need to acknowledge each other and like call each other man or bro or dude or something for some reason. So I'm like walking, it's like, sup, man. And it took me like a second to be like, oh, sup. Like he's talking to me. Like, and then also, things that I've just realized, like I still say sorry all the time. If I bump into anybody or don't like, you know, I'm just like, sorry. And it's like, men don't say sorry to each other. And they actually look at each other like you're weird if like, why do you say sorry? And now the classic thing of like, you know, if you're like walking on a street or something as a woman, I feel like I would always make space, mainly because dudes don't fucking care and they'll just like take up so much space.
Literally so much space.
Yes. And it's like, now I'm that person, but I'll see, I feel like I only get clocked or I'm worried about getting clocked when I'm like still socially behaving as a woman. Like I'll be on a plane and still be sitting small. Like this because I'm like, you know, but I'm like, oh, I guess I'm a dude now.
Yeah, it's so weird. All of that stuff is so bizarre. Last night, we went to a Halloween party, and I was a football player, and Becca made me wear football pads, real ones. Yeah. And I was walking through the crowd. Like, I've never felt so self-conscious, just because I was like, I'm hitting you, I'm hitting you, I'm hitting you. And I'm taking so much space, whether I wanted to or not, and like not being aware of how big I was. I was like, oh my God, I'm sorry. Oh my God, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like, but I imagine like that would be so different. Like just like it's the same kind of feeling.
It's
almost
so weird. Exactly. And it's like it's puberty in a whole new way because it's also like, you know, I don't think I've gotten taller. My feet have gotten a little bit bigger, which sucks because I've spent so much money on shoes. Luckily, I have like an immigrant mentality as a child of like always having to buy my shoes a little bit bigger in case I grow.
No way. I've never even heard of that before.
Yeah. That was like my mom being like, you're going to grow into these. And like it happens during puberty. But as an adult, I would still be like, I was solidly an 8.5 and I would buy shoes like a size 9 or a 9.5.
No way.
Yeah, and now they fit me. So I have a little bit longer.
I also wonder, I feel like that's also a thing that I know a lot of trans people do too, is buy their shoes bigger because they don't want their feet to look small.
Oh, interesting.
I wonder if that has affected you too.
I did that too with definitely with like hoodies and stuff of like, yeah, everything fits different, but like, yeah, I was socialized as a woman. I'm like a sorority girl at heart. I was in a sorority. I know.
Which one?
Delta Gamma.
Okay.
And like
DG.
my sisters, I still see them. Now they just call me their brother. They're like, this is my sorority brother.
That's so funny. I was in a sorority too.
Yeah, were you? What were you?
Tri Delta.
I think I knew that. Yeah.
Delta, Delta, Delta.
Can I help you?
There you go. You know it.
I was a DG, and then I was like, I culturally still feel like a lesbian, and so. And I'm a writer, and it's so funny because it's like, I don't want to write about men. I never wanted to write about men. And people are like, oh, well, like, are you going to write about men? I'm like, no.
Men are like the least interesting people.
Yeah.
But trans men, very interesting.
Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah. That's okay. I have so many questions for
Yeah.
you. How has the puberty part been for you?
Oh my God.
Like, do you have like the same like emotional things happening that we actually go through puberty? Like, you know,
it's a different puberty because puberty was, this is another thing about like people ask about transness of how did you know, when did you know? Like I knew I was queer from my first crush was on a girl. And so I was like, oh, okay, I'm a lesbian. I'm not supposed to say that because I grew up Christian. But with transness, there's this whole concept of like being a tomboy that allows so many like FTM, like trans men or in that exact pipeline of like tomboy to soft boy to trans boy. And so it took me a lot longer to realize that. And then the other thing was puberty sucks for everybody. But I, looking back now, realize that's when my dysphoria began.
for sure.
Because obviously my body changed, but I thought that was just, oh, this sucks for everybody. But what I'm realizing now is for cis people, it sucks for those 3 or 4 years that you look awful and you have acne and you're like a weird in between, like in Harry Potter when they take the polyjuice potion, like that's what you feel like. But for me, that just never stopped. And now I'm like, oh, that was what that was. But so many things I was just like, oh, I guess that's puberty.
Yeah.
This puberty now is the opposite because every day I'm happier with the changes that are happening, but it still sucks in that like, yeah, I get acne and I sweat and like.
This episode is sponsored by ZocDoc. Adulting has a lot of perks, like you get to make your own rules, you get to order the food you want to order. My personal favorite, you get to set the thermostat to whatever temperature you want when you want. So adulting is great until adulting is hard. And adulting is hard when you have to make your own doctor's appointments. Honestly, we do not complain about this issue enough, in my personal opinion. I could talk about it all day. But thanks to ZocDoc, it's a lot easier. ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare high-quality in-network doctors, choose the right one for your needs, and click to instantly book an appointment. We're talking about in-network appointments with over 100,000 healthcare providers in every specialty. From mental health to dental health, eye care to skin care, and much more. Plus, ZocDoc appointments happen fast, typically between 24 and 72 hours after booking your appointment, and sometimes you can even snag a same-day appointment. Since finding ZocDoc, I've been so much less stressed out about booking my own appointments, and also they've just made being an adult that much easier. So stop putting off your doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/X's and find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/X's. And one more time, that's ZocDoc.com/X's. This episode is sponsored by Osea. Holiday season is coming up, and if you are looking for an easy, amazing, beautiful gift for even the hardest person to shop for, Osea has you covered. Osea's limited edition Super Glow body set includes 3 of their best-selling body care products at an incredible value. And it's packed in a box so beautiful you won't even need wrapping paper, which honestly is my favorite kind of gift because I typically wrap my presents in like CVS bags. Honestly, it's a problem. It's a big problem. Nobody likes it. Nobody likes it. Honestly, this gift is so good, you might want to buy it for yourself, but you better hurry because it is a limited edition and they might run out. It comes with a full-size Undaria Algae Body Oil, their new Undaria Algae Body Wash, and a travel-size hyaluronic body serum. Personally, I love to use the body wash and then the body oil, like in my everything shower. That's what I typically do. And my skin honestly looks and feels so much better. And especially with winter coming up and my skin gets so dry, scary dry. And my favorite thing about the oil is it's not greasy. It soaks right up into your skin and it actually truly like is making a difference. I feel so much better. And the smell is so nice and very like gender neutral, if you will. All Osea products are vegan and cruelty-free, and they're also a climate-neutral certified and ocean-positive verified brand. So you can feel good about yourself for using these products while you're also feeling good in your own skin. Save 32% on this set at OseaMalibu.com and an extra 10% site-wide off your first order when you use the code Shannon. Give the gift of glow this season with clean, clinically tested skincare from Osea. And again, we have a special discount code just for our listeners. When you go to oseamalibu.com, you'll get 10% off your first order with the code Shannon. This episode is sponsored by Curé. As you guys know, I like to keep my clothes for a long time and I like to keep them in good condition when I can. I love to shop secondhand. I love to shop vintage. And I think it's really important to keep your things nice when you can. Although I myself do not wear many purses, my girlfriend does, and I'm the lesbian who wants to keep my little things in her little purses. And thanks to Curé and thanks to this podcast, I now know about their leather care kit, which works wonders to keep your handbags in top-notch condition. We maintain our shoes and we maintain our cars and even our bodies, so why not our handbag collections? Especially more luxury handbags, those things can be an investment, and Curé makes sure they can last a lifetime. Plus, if you ever decide to resell, Curé makes sure that your bag is in top condition so you get top dollar when you go to sell it again. In today's world where overconsumption is a really big issue, I think it's important to make sure we keep our products in great condition and keep them for as long as possible, and Curé helps make sure that that is possible for your purses. There's a limited supply available, so go to mycuré.com to get your leather care kit today. That's mycuré.com. The best way to make your handbag last forever. Your handbag or your girlfriend's handbag, depending on who you are listening to this. Yeah. Do you feel like your emotions are changing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Testosterone is... it's strong, and it's like dudes are actually hornier in a completely different way that I have never felt before in my body. And now I'm like, oh my God, I can't get stuff done because I'm horny.
That's crazy.
And I'm like, what? And it's so different. It's just like this physical thing. And basically you have a lot more energy.
Totally.
And you either have to work out or have sex or do something physical. And then one thing I was worried about, though, is that's pretty common that you cry less. I was already not a great crier. I was very as an eldest daughter, emotionally, I just held everything in.
Totally.
But now, so one thing I did a lot of therapy before transitioning, but I could feel that the quickness of crying changes. The other thing is, before when having a period, women are just used to having cycles of your mood. Every month, that I'm going to feel shitty for a little while, or I'm going to feel really awesome. Or when you wake up and you're ovulating, you're like, fuck yeah, I look amazing. And it's just that 1 week, but it's much steadier as a dude. Although the testosterone keeps you at this higher amped level. So anger happens faster.
I was going to ask.
Yeah.
Because I feel I lived with a trans guy too, for a while. So I feel I got so much. Yeah. And it was at the beginning of the testosterone stuff. And he was a younger guy too. Yeah. So it was also a lot of
hasn't managed.
Yeah. They were a lot. He was buying BB guns and shooting them in the house. I was I knew you were going to go through puberty. I didn't know I was going to be babysitting you.
Yeah. An actual little boy.
Yes. But the anger thing. And there was a lot of stuff that he talked about that I was just I would have never thought about that.
Yeah. And if you
didn't see it.
Wouldn't have thought that, what I'm learning is there are different things physically, but it's at the end of the day, we're all humans and still have the emotions that we do. And I feel really lucky to have been socialized as a woman because even in shooting this series for New Guy Tries, I realized how much it was oh yeah, cis dudes just don't have access to talking about their emotions in the same way that women do.
Yeah, because they're not expected to. No. Also,
and it seems weak, and it's but I mean, every woman's had this experience. With your girlfriends, the way you catch up is you go on a walk or you go to dinner or go to coffee and you just talk, and it immediately gets deep. For dudes, you have to have an activity, and then after this weird ice breaks, maybe you can throw something in.
Totally.
And you have to gauge the other dude of is this too much?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are we going there? Does this make us gay?
Yeah, totally. I feel do you feel it's a privilege that you have that experience growing up and now you get to be in male dominated spaces and get men to talk about things like that?
Yeah. I mean, it's a double-edged sword. It's a privilege in that the thing that I fucking hate the most is like having experience not feeling safe as a woman and then realizing how safe men feel in the world, like actually infuriates me. And knowing that I am getting that privilege. But then again, being a trans person is like the least privileged identity right now, where your rights are constantly being attacked and everyone's trying to politicize you. But yeah, I do think it's a privilege in terms of, I don't know, just like I feel like I get to bring my full self because I worked out who I was as a woman and now I'm working out who I am as a man. And I'm realizing that there's so much that men and women have to learn from each other. And I get to learn it in the same experience and it being in the same body or a similar body.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Isn't it? Okay, I feel like it's interesting. I feel like even in queer spaces with queer people, there is a lot of transphobia and it's like kind of tinier, like more like microaggressions or like micro statements. Something that I feel I hear a lot from lesbians is if they had access, like, because they were tomboys, right?
Yeah.
And they have this like thought that they're like, if I had access to being trans as a kid, I maybe would have because I was a tomboy. And I'm like, I don't think you would. I don't think that's how that works. And also there's a lot of miseducation, in my opinion, on gender affirming care for younger kids because that's something I'll hear from like a lesbian and I'll be like, yeah, but what do you think? Do you think that they were going to like, what do you think gender affirming care is? Like, what do you think tomboy you at 8 years old was going to do like medically to change your body? Because
really,
I think you don't know.
Gender as a child is just being allowed to cut your hair.
Literally.
And wear boys' clothes.
Literally.
And like, I think gender affirming care, what I've realized and even been thinking about this, because this is an issue that comes up when I'm talking to my friends who want to be supportive of their children, but at the same time, children are going through things and learning things. So it's like, how much do you medically interfere? I think a lot of gender affirming care for people who are younger, the most that makes sense. I mean, it's a case by case basis. Like, you know your kid more, and you know whether they're the type of kid who is always changing things up, or if they're like, no, I know this. But like a lot of gender affirming care, like you said, for an 8-year-old, it's nothing except for you can act like a boy, essentially,
and go maybe therapy.
Yes, like, and then or it's hormone blockers, which it's like that doesn't,
change who you are.
No,
I know. this is something I talk to people all the time. Like, I'm always like, the most that we really do is keep people from going through puberty.
Yes.
And then you can go through puberty anytime.
And then it gives them the option when you are ready and you have decided as an adult. Also, who wouldn't want to delay puberty a little bit? Like, literally. It's basically like being a gymnast. If you're a fucking gymnast at a professional level, you're delaying puberty anyway.
Yep, totally.
Like,
it happens naturally.
Yes.
And it can also happen with medicine.
Yes.
And it's really not that big of a deal.
No.
I just think people do not know. And it just bothers me so much when it's queer people. I'm like, have you open a book, read something, look, or like watch a YouTube video, like listen to what these people are saying, because it's not what you are literally being affected by like the news the same way that your conservative parents are. And you are not realizing how bigoted you sound when you say these things. Like, if I had access to that as a tomboy, I would be trans today too. I'm like, no, you fucking wouldn't. And if you were...
Also, most of those people who say that are probably trans.
I know, I agree completely. I'm like, why are you so bothered by that?
Because there are lesbians who just have never felt that and are tomboys. Yeah. And then it's like, but if you feel that, it's probably because there is some transness in you that you want to. I mean, the perfect example of that is literally J.K. Rowling, who is like one of the most notorious like anti-trans people. She wrote in her essay on her website, you can see her saying, if I earlier had been allowed to be a male, I might have done it. And it's like, dude, of course, that makes so much sense. Why would anyone be that obsessed with trans people who isn't reckoning with that?
Totally. Totally.
So I totally agree with you of like, and that's hard in queer spaces because like you want those to be safe queer spaces. And I think the way that queer spaces treat trans men and trans women is also different in that there's also a lot of man hate in general, and a lot of trans men just look like cis men at a certain point. And then so assuming that if a man is there, like that it's a cis man, and it's like, I don't know what to do about that or how to rectify it, but I've definitely felt a loss of being in queer spaces that I felt more welcomed in before.
Yeah.
And but I think it's important also, like, I went to a trans guy summer camp.
No way.
Yeah, it was incredible. It was called Camp Lost Boys, and it was 150 trans dudes of all ages from like around the world. And that was incredible. Like, I also see the need for single spaces of like where your identities, and like everyone there, you know, your pronouns could be he, they, but everyone at least identified as like he, him. And so you don't even go around and say your pronouns, which for trans people is so revolutionary of just being able to be a person.
Yeah, totally.
So that was really cool.
Totally. Wait, what do you do at that camp?
The best fucking part about camp is that you can choose to go to camp and just be a camper.
Okay.
And like you can do archery the whole time, or just do nature hikes or friendship bracelets. Or every day there's all of these like talks given by other trans dudes about different subjects and stuff that pertain to trans guys, about like, you know, STPs, like stand to pee devices, or I gave one about grief and like how it relates to transness, and like it was just amazing. But more than anything, I think the most healing part was just like being normal. And it was so crazy too, because every day I'd like walk around and be afraid because I'm like, there's so many men here, and then I'm like, oh, they're all trans dudes.
Yeah, that's so weird.
I'm safe.
Like such a like that. When else would you have that experience?
Never.
Like how else would you do that?
You couldn't. Like most of the guys there, myself included, it's like you had never met, or maybe you knew at the most one other trans guy. And so to be around like 150 trans dudes and like be able to learn what brotherhood is in a safe space that's not like influenced by cis brotherhood that can be, you know, often very toxic. Totally. It was really cool.
That's so interesting. I've never heard of that. I feel like so many people would love to have that experience.
Yeah. Yes. Look it up. Camp Lost Boys.
Look it up, y'all.
Look it up, you weirdos.
So was your talk on grief, was that about like what kind of grief? Like actual death, or was it about
yeah, it was a little bit like intersectional in that like I lost my dad during the pandemic, so it was about that, but then I opened it up to just be about any type of grief. And it was so interesting what people brought up. Like people were talking about the grief of losing their sense of belonging in female spaces, and other people were talking about the grief of a marriage ending. Other people were talking about, you know, like all kinds of grief. So, but like, I think it was cool it wasn't necessarily about the exact intersection of being trans and experiencing grief, but it was all of those talks come from a place of like the underlying thing is that we're trans. And so it was cool to have, you know, I had some people there who were talking about the grief of losing religious community.
Oh, yeah.
Because, you know, queer people, there are still a lot of queer people who are religious, but they're not welcomed into those spaces. And so this person was like, I just lost my entire community and like, I still feel close to God, but I don't feel like I have a community. And so that was something that they talked about, which I would have never thought about, that type of grief.
Yeah, totally. I feel like too, when you go through anything that's that like life changing, like you're going to lose one or two things, you know what I mean? I think that would be so hard. I feel like to like lose the identity of like being a lesbian could be so hard because like lesbians are awesome, but maybe I'm speaking from...
No, lesbians are awesome. The one thing that and now I'm like a dude, like I used to watch TV and be like, I'm not going to watch it unless two women kiss, because now it's very creepy if I say that, you know? Like, people are like, what? And I'm like, no, because I'm trans. Like I have to very much be like, not just like, ugh, girls kissing.
Yeah, no, that's so fair.
And then like, what was the other thing that you said of... The one thing though, there are some things that aren't, I will say, nice about like getting out of lesbian culture, of just like the constant over processing.
Oh my God, right?
Nonstop. And it's like, oh yeah, now I'm just like in a relationship where it's not two women constantly processing everything, even though of course I still come to it with that background.
Totally.
I am with a partner who has only dated cis men. And so it's actually her that is used to, in a certain way, just being like done with the conversation. And I'm the one who's more like, well, what did you mean by that? And she's like, we're done with this conversation.
I can't even imagine. That's gotta be, I literally cannot imagine.
Yeah, you get so much time back.
Yeah, what the hell? I've only dated women.
Yeah.
So I'm like, as a woman. Has dating been, or like, yeah, I guess you're not dating, you have a partner, right?
Yeah.
So, but how has that been different compared, other than just the communication of it all?
I think, honestly, it just affects what transitioning affects overall is like just a sense of self. So I feel so much more embodied. I didn't even know what that meant, you know, like being in my brain and my body at the same time, and being able to be physical and being able to not have dysphoria while having sex. I mean, still some dysphoria, but like not anywhere near what I had before. And realizing, I don't know, I can just access all these different parts of myself that makes my relationship so much fuller.
Yeah, that makes so much sense.
Yeah, and it's like you can't do that if you're, I don't want to say hiding something, because really with queerness, with like being queer, I felt like I was hiding something because it was something that I knew. Transness is a different experience for me because it was almost more just like an unsettling feeling of something feels right, but I can't figure out what it is.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. Yeah. Because, yeah, if you also like the gayness of it all is so, like, you can be so sure of it. Yeah. Like, I feel like there's like a mystery kind of almost around like transitioning, especially because you're making something like you're making a decision that's definitely, some of it irreversible, and then you don't know even if you know so deeply, what if, like, I feel like there would always be like a fear of like, this is, I mean, even just like getting like a boob job, like not even like top surgery, but like getting, you might be like, I think I want my boobs to be bigger.
Yeah.
And your boobs could be bigger. And then you'd be like, wait, what did I do? And now they're bigger.
Yes. And you know what? The thing is, I think that's the other fear that people have. Of course, transition, there are some elements that are permanent, but everything is reversible. How many women have gotten huge boobs and then been like, actually, I don't want this anymore.
Totally.
Trans people can do the same thing. And that's why I think the whole discussion around like gender affirming care, it's like, yeah, it's not a matter of, something that was surprising was how difficult it was to get the care I needed, even in California. And even with having access to all the things that I needed access to, you still have to get all these diagnoses for gender dysphoria. Whereas like, had I been a cis, you know, if I went in as a cis woman and was like, I want my boobs to go from a C to a double G, all I would need is money.
Yeah.
No one would have to be like, well, are you mentally sane, or what are we going to diagnose you with?
That is so true.
Yeah.
That is so true.
And like, same with dudes, you can go get pec implants or you can do whatever you want to your body. And there's all these loopholes that trans people have to go through that, like, on top of everything else, make the care harder to get.
Totally. Which I feel like that's also something that people don't know. Like when I'm having those conversations with, and it's not just with queer people who I feel like have some transphobia, you know, I'll have those conversations with cis people and straight people where I'm like, this is not an easy thing to do. Like people aren't just waking up one day and being like, I want to be a boy and then becoming a boy. People aren't waking up one day and being like, I want to be a girl and then becoming a girl. It doesn't work like that.
No.
Like you do, as far as medical things go, you know what I mean?
But
like,
even socially, it doesn't work like that.
Totally.
You have to come in the same way that queer people, like sexuality wise, come out to themselves first and process what that means and what it means to their friends. Trans people are doing the same exact thing.
100%.
You know, it wasn't like and that's the thing, is it's a spectrum for everyone. So I think that's what's confusing too. For some people, they never go on hormones. They never go, but they still identify. There's people who are not on hormones, who don't get surgery, who identify as trans men.
Yeah.
You know, and that's fine.
Totally.
And I think that it's also important to know that like the transition isn't just medical. Like something interesting for me, like I got my top surgery before I did hormones, and that's pretty rare. Most people have been on hormones for a long time before they get their surgery. But I just knew I hated my boobs from the second that I had them. I was like, oh, I hate these. And so I used to think about, well, breast cancer runs in my family. Maybe one day I'll get breast cancer and then I'll just get them removed.
Yeah. That's such
crazy.
an intense thing to be like, Yeah.
But I never said that to anyone.
No, just-
and then only when I would hear cis women, it's like the worst thing in the world for a cis woman to lose her breasts. And that's why so many people who have breast cancer, who go through double mastectomies in the same surgery, get surgery to have breasts because they are so tied to it. Where I was like praying, well, maybe I'll get cancer and I can get my boobs off.
Yeah. That's intense.
Right?
Yeah, totally. And I think that's where people who don't understand transness are confused.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that they are processing how intense those feelings are. And yeah, I think just I think transness is being politicized because, in my personal opinion, because we finally have more like understanding of just gayness.
Yeah.
And now people need something else to
Literally.
fearmonger and be like, well, shit, most people are good with gay people now, but do you see these trans people?
I wish you could just walk into school and get a transgender surgery. That would have saved me a lot of time, but that's like not how it works.
It's not going to work like
the
that.
other thing too is like, you know, transness is so, there's a lot of it that's heavy, but like, I'm still me. I'm still myself. I'm still a comedian. There's a lot of it that's super fucking funny. Like learning how men interact in the bathroom, learning all this. I'm like, this is hilarious.
Yeah.
Like, you know, half the bathrooms, like even in LA, don't have mirrors in the men's room. And I'm like, is it because it's like gay to perceive yourself? Or like,
Oh my God. No, literally what?
The men's restroom is a horror story. Like any trans men, aside from all the bathroom politics, it's just the most disgusting place on earth.
Literally.
Like men behave like primates. There's just like, I went into Costco and an older man came out wearing a suit and there was like some like poop on the ground.
No.
Yeah. And I was like, and with like fresh toilet paper, I was like, did you do what? You're wearing a suit? What?
Like what?
What? The only safe men's bathrooms are the like hotels where the stalls are, where they go all the way down. For some reason, men like behave themselves in those. I think it's something about the wood or like the presence of mahogany that they respect. They're like, I can't desecrate this.
I'll take care of this place.
Yeah, but like, it's also dead silent in a men's room.
Hate that.
Yeah, because it's just like get in, get out. Dudes will be on their phones while they're peeing. Sometimes two hands.
No.
They're just peeing. Yes.
No.
Yes. Half the time, not half, maybe a third of the time they don't wash their hands.
Oh my God.
The other horrible thing is that I have to use a stall, but in most men's rooms, it's like a bunch of urinals and then one stall where a man is like physically dying, basically, and blowing it up in there.
Yeah. And I feel like they're probably not as like ashamed. I feel like women are so like,
it's like an airport. The
they,
only
like, don't care.
uninhibited place where I feel like people fart freely is in an airport. Even women, because it's just like, man, I don't know what the plane did to me, and you're just like, you're never gonna see these people again. That's what the men's room is all the time.
I hate that.
I hate it. I literally, and it's like, I've experienced a Nordstrom's women's restroom. I'll like longingly be like, I know there's a couch and a lounge there and people are just chatting.
Yeah. I was going to say, do you miss that? Because I feel like that's such a sweet thing, is talking to girls in the bathroom.
I miss just chatting and I miss now. Also now, I felt like an awkward woman. Like I very much identified as an awkward woman, didn't feel attractive. And I learned to like I felt like a personality walking around without a body. Mm-hmm. Now I have this personality and I'm a dude and I interact with women in the same way. And so many times I feel like women think I'm flirting with them because men are not interested in women or asking them questions unless they want to like hook up with them.
Totally.
And so I'm like, how do I act? Or do I just like act like, you know, sometimes I like play up the kind of like campiness side of like my queer self. I'll bring up Drag Race as quickly as possible so that they're like, oh, and they just think I'm a gay guy, which I'm like, okay, great.
Think of me however you want, as long as you're not scared of me.
Yeah, as long as you're not afraid of me. And it's like, and that's also weird to be in situations where I had the other day, I was like walking somewhere and a girl crossed the street when I was walking and I was like, I wanted to be like, girl,
it's okay.
We're good.
Oh my God. There's so many things like you just wouldn't really think about until you're like, experiencing them.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I would definitely mourn the loss of a women's restroom just for so many reasons.
I think that's the biggest one. There's so much to gain though of like weight. Like in New Guy Tries, we did a thing of like one episode was called like Meat and Muscles, where it was like me doing CrossFit and then me learning how to cook meat, because like that's something dudes do. But when I first started working out as a guy, I remember getting on the scale and being like horrified because I was gaining weight. And that's like what you want. And my trainer was so proud of me. He's like, holy shit, you gained 4 pounds. And I was like, ah. And it's like, as a woman, you're just told to shrink.
Yeah.
You know, and to be smaller. And it's all about weight and it's not about strength. And like, those are the things that genuinely make me sad that I wish women got to experience, of like what it means to be empowered in your body. And I think, listen, it's happening. Like, women's sports is blowing up as it should be.
Totally.
But that's the other thing. Like, I don't like watching men's sports. So I go to like a Sparks game and I'm just like hanging out with these, like, I met this super butch lesbian who like we became besties. And I'm like, what does she think of me? Like, who does she think I am? Just like an ally dude, or like a
yeah, who am I to you?
Yeah, it's inappropriate to show everyone your top surgery scars
all the time.
First thing.
I'm like, I feel like, but a lot of trans guys are doing that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I saw your joke on TikTok about like a bunch of trans guys like shirtless.
What is it called? Or what was it? It was like, what do you call a group of trans guys? Shirtless. It's true.
It's so true. I can imagine that would be so freeing.
Yeah.
Just in like having to be covered up all the time and like just like so annoying. But
it
also,
really is. That's the only disappointing thing about fall, but I'm glad we live in SoCal. Is like, ugh, I can't just like be shirtless all the time.
All the time. But at least in your house all the time,
I'm
sure.
Literally.
Yeah.
All the time.
My roommate, I'm
Same
pulling.
thing? Yeah.
It was the same thing. I'm like,
yep.
You know what? I understand.
There's definitely some things that trans dudes have in common, and millennial trans dudes. It's like every trans guy gets the Devon Sawa haircut first. Of like,
what is that?
He's from Little Giants or Casper, the like blonde boy with it's basically like the Jonathan Taylor Thomas haircut.
Totally.
Or Leo DiCaprio in
100%.
It's like, it very much goes through phases of like, you get to be the 90s heartthrob boy that you wanted to be. And so you first look like a 90s boy, and then it evolves to, I don't know, kind of in the Harry Styles zone. And then I think you kind of like land where you naturally are.
Yeah.
It's the lesbian equivalent of like immediately wearing a bunch of button-ups and snapbacks.
And like beanies.
Yeah. Oh, the beanies.
Lots of beanies.
The beanies and the scarves and the beanies with tank tops. Like, that was always the most confusing thing to me.
Oh, I've got pictures of me like that for sure. For sure. It's funny because, I feel like it's with everything, right? You kind of overcorrect.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, I've been hiding this thing, so now I'm going to do the most of this thing. And also I think, at least like I'll speak for lesbians, there's a desire to be perceived as a lesbian by other people. Like, you're like, I want you to know.
Yeah.
And I've been hiding it for so long, so now like this beanie, you'll know.
And I was like, as a lesbian, I felt more femme than I was masc, but I was like, oh, but I'm like, people aren't gonna know. Exactly. So it's like, oh, you'll know if I have a snapback or if my button's up to here for no reason.
Yeah.
And it was funny too, because like, I actually, as a lesbian, started wearing more masculine clothes that then I felt wrong in, because I was presenting. So many people, even my friends, were like, but like, can't you just be a butch lesbian? Why do you have to be a man? And I'm like, I don't want to be a butch lesbian. I want to be a feminine man. Yeah. And that's the difference.
That is so different.
Yep.
That's so interesting.
And it's like kind of the same clothes, but I don't want to be perceived as a masculine woman. I want to be perceived as a feminine man.
That's so interesting. Yeah. That really is. Can we circle back to the grief thing? Because I thought it was so beautiful in the episode of Try Guys with your mom, but that you didn't get to come out to your dad, right?
Yeah, I didn't.
But also I thought it was so special that you're like, I know how to tie a tie because your dad taught you how to tie a tie.
Yeah, that was because of Avril Lavigne. I loved Avril Lavigne. My
my
dad
God.
actually bought me my first tie because I was wearing all his ties to school.
Stop.
And he was like, these are my work ties. And he bought me my own tie. And he actually took me to an Avril Lavigne concert. The first and only concert that my dad took me to was Avril Lavigne. And it ended up being insanely, there was a mosh pit in the front. And my giant dad was like, holding
Like,
me
protecting you.
protecting me in. And it was in Long Beach. And we had ringing in our ears for like 4 days. And my dad was like, I'm never doing that again. But that's where I learned to tie a tie, because I was like, I must wear a tie every day.
That's so like how like what are the odds that
Truly.
that came full circle for you, and now it's like I know how to do that, even though you never got to
Yes.
tell him, like you have this like masculine thing
Yes.
from him.
And that's such a, I feel like that is one of the most common, like my dad taught me how to shave, my dad taught me how to tie a tie, and my sibling is actually trans and uses they them pronouns and is non-binary, but was born male. And so when it came to shaving, I was like, who am I going to ask about how to shave? And I asked my sibling, and they were like, this is how you shave, this is what you do, like against the grain or whatever. And then I was like, do you want me to tell you how to shave around your knees? Like,
That's so cute.
so we got to like exchange this
Yeah.
information too.
That's so sweet. That's so how unique that you both are trans like
I
that.
know.
Like
It, and I think from what I'm reading in the comments, it's more common than people think. I think transness, just like queerness, is probably a gene, you
Yeah.
know? But yeah, the grief of it was so interesting. Like this show accidentally became like an exploration of my grief with my dad and gave me a chance to resolve so much. And the weird thing is, yeah, I didn't get to tell my dad that I was trans, but I, like, as I become a man and more masculine, like I literally look more like my dad. So
Yeah.
I'm seeing my dad in myself that I didn't before. And like things that were bad as a woman of like having big shoulders or having, now I see these pictures of my dad when he was like going through puberty. I'm like, that's what I look like, which is crazy.
that is so crazy.
Yeah. And like, there's so much, but you know, I know my dad would have been okay with it eventually. And like, he was okay with my sibling eventually.
Yeah.
But yeah, it became this kind of weird, beautiful thing about grief and getting to share those moments with my mom too, that I also wonder if my dad was around, I probably wouldn't have gotten to share that with my mom.
Yeah.
You know?
Totally. It's so, yeah, when you lose one thing, you gain another.
Yeah.
But that's got to be so hard. And were your parents okay with your like queerness before that? Like,
No, it was so funny. I came out as bisexual, and it like my parents were like, the world is ending. Like it was like, but it's so funny to me now because like bisexuality is like,
Who
what?
isn't?
Yeah, like literally.
Yeah.
And that's what I tell everyone. Everyone is a little bisexual, except for like, we all know that like there are like 2 gay men in my life who I'm like, you are 100% gay.
yeah, I know. I feel like I'm not for lesbians.
Yeah,
I'm like,
exactly.
I'm all the way there.
Exactly. There are
Yeah.
people who are 100% gay women, or 100% straight. But like most people, there's still probably one dude in the world who you would be like, yeah, for him maybe.
yeah,
But
totally.
it's like, so my parents were like, this is the worst. It's the end of the world. My mom would cry and be like, but what about your wedding? And they had all sorts of weird questions. Like my dad was like, what if you want to be a CEO? And I was like, what?
I'll be a bisexual CEO.
Literally, I was like, where is this frame of mind coming from? And then, of course, when my sibling came out, after me doing all the groundwork of queerness and whatever, my sibling came out as trans. My parents were like, love is love, and everyone is who they are. And I was like, fuck you. That was me.
Yeah, you're welcome for that.
Literally, that's like the classic like older sibling shit of
Yeah.
like, are you kidding me?
Totally. You did a lot of work there.
Yeah, I was like, you sobbed
Yeah.
about me being bisexual.
Did you come out to them like as you were coming out? Because you identified as a lesbian
Yeah.
eventually.
Yes.
Right?
Uh-huh.
So did you have to come out to them again? Or was it kind of just like,
No, it's just kind of along the spectrum. And the funny thing is like, what I realized is like, oh yeah, I came out as bisexual, and then I felt like in the end, queer became the thing that I identified with, because everyone wants to know your numbers, and that feels so like random to me of like, really I'm 90% attracted to women. But then now, as a trans person, somebody said to me, so you're straight? And I was like, no. And then I was all of a sudden really into like the 10% of dudes that I liked. And I was like, no, this guy is attractive and this guy, because I was like, the one thing I refuse to be is straight.
A straight man.
Yeah, a straight
Damn
man.
it. I don't want that.
Are you kidding me?
Like, whoops, how did that happen?
Yeah.
Do you feel, okay, we usually talk a little bit about sex on this podcast.
Yeah.
So do you feel like you're more sexually attracted to men now?
Yes.
Because why? That's a common phenomenon, I feel.
It is, and it's starting to be proven in research. And now I'm like, this is why guys say no homo, because they're all little homo.
Right? That's what I'm so curious about, because I know, like I was saying, the trans men that I know, almost all of them are like, wait, I'm kind of weirded out that I'm attracted to men
I was like
now.
never attracted to men before, only like the soft and the most soft. It's like the Seth Cohens of the world that would get me. Now it's like the Paul Mescals or the Pascal, any skull really. Like it's that like sweaty dude who is in Gladiator.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is happening? And it's fully testosterone.
Yeah, and cis men must.
That's why they say no. I'm like, why are they so obsessed with being gay? And I'm like, oh, because you're all a little gay.
I mean, yeah, straight men do the gayest shit. Like,
oh yeah,
the fact
wrestling.
That they'll like jerk off together.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
What the hell is that? Can you imagine two straight women being like, can we go to my room really quick? No, that's never going to happen.
And you know what it is? What I think is interesting, though, is I do understand sex is just more physical with testosterone.
Yeah.
In general.
Totally.
It feels so much more just like a physical act than it did before. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of can understand how two straight men who are like maybe predominantly romantically attracted to women would do something so sexual together, because it's so inherent to being a man, is like the amount of sexual, like it is actually crazy how horny you get on testosterone. I was like, what? This is insane. I used to think boys were just like the grossest in the world, and now I'm like, I kind of have sympathy for what boys go through.
That's so interesting. I mean, I guess, yeah, if you think about it too, just like from an evolution standpoint, they're trying to.
That's what they have. They're trying to repopulate the earth too. Yep. And it's like, it is in them to like fuck whatever they can.
Yeah, which is why I think they would fuck guys.
Literally.
And that's fine. They're just like, okay, sure, I would fuck a guy, just don't call me gay.
Yeah, literally. Well, and I guess I can't see myself in a mirror, otherwise I'm gay also. Like, there's so many. I think men are so afraid of being gay or being perceived as being gay, whereas like there is such a permissive structure for women to like. I remember dying to get to college because everyone would talk about experimenting in college. Like, so I was like, great, I'm going to experiment in college, then I can't wait. But there's no equivalent for men of like, I'm just going to be a little gay in college. Like,
and like, it's sad because I feel they may never have that. Like, it will be, if it ever happens, I feel it will be like hundreds of years from now. Like,
bisexuality is just as prevalent in men as it is in women. It's just not socially allowed.
Totally, 100%. I feel like that's becoming such a thing so many people talk about, but like that bi men, people just assume are gay men, and then like bi women, people are like, no, they're straight. Even.
Oh, yes,
do you know what I mean?
yes.
They're experimenting.
And that's just the patriarchy.
Totally.
They want people to play into the roles that we are supposed to.
Yeah, and also it's like everything is male-centered. So it's like, obviously at the end of the day, everyone wants the peen. It's like, no.
The other weird thing is like, for someone, I'm dating someone who has predominantly dated men. So like, she's learning, you know, and I won't speak about it too much because that's her story, but like she's learning about sex with someone who was a woman before, and about sex not just being like about penetration and about like, you know, it's just so different.
Yeah.
Like, I think every woman needs to have sex with a woman or with someone with a vagina, just so at some point they realize that like it can be a mutual act that is like communicative. Totally. Because it is so easy for men, because of the equipment that they have, for cis men, for sex to be so performative, or not performative, but just perfunctory. And because it's like, oh, mission accomplished. But like, that's not how sex works with two women. I mean, I guess, but
also no.
Yeah, you still have orgasms, but it's not the same type of in like sex between cis men and cis women, it's very easy and it's obvious, like from all the statistics, that you can be in a marriage your whole life and only the man has an orgasm and women are just faking it. That does not happen in queer relationships.
No, it doesn't. I'm sure some, but mostly no.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was talking to Rebekah Black about this because she's bi, and I was like, without going as far as saying, I don't want to say what I said to her because it sounded weird when I said that too. Like, but I'm like, it must be kind of like almost a gift to straight men to get to date and like hook up with a woman who's hooked up with women because they have the wherewithal to know like that their standards in the bedroom should be higher.
Yes, you know what I mean? Don't settle, basically.
Where they would like, and I feel it's unfortunate for like straight men too, like that it's like a disservice to them that they don't know and they're not necessarily ever hooking up with people who are like, do better, be better, do this.
Or engaging with the emotional side of what sex and intimacy can be, because it's just about like, okay, in and out, like literally. I think the weird thing though is like, in terms of horniness and what hormones do, the biggest difference I've noticed is that like as a woman, I would say my sexuality felt more like a dimmer, like you slowly get turned on or turned off. Well, it's just a light switch now.
Interesting.
You're just horny all the time and something happens and you're like, I'm ready to go.
That's so interesting. Yeah, definitely doesn't feel like that as a woman.
No. And that's why foreplay, I think, is so foreign to men and so necessary for women. But it's just biologically, you're primed at different, like...
Totally.
You know, the pump is primed. And then, like, the other thing I learned about sex is that I'm a top.
Oh my God, exciting.
I didn't know. And that was because, I mean, partially, literally, because... You know, and topping for people who are listening who aren't queer isn't just about literally being on top. But sometimes it is.
Yeah.
And it's like, for me, being the person who was like, you know, more in control, I could never even physically be on top because my boobs gave me so much dysphoria of like, they were so present and hanging down and I hated it.
Fair.
And then now I'm like, you know, to the point that my friends would joke about my bottom energy. And now I'm like, I'm not a bottom.
Yeah. That's so, that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Do you have like, I wonder, do you have like any advice for someone who is questioning their like identity and maybe thinks they're a trans guy, like in the bedroom, what they could be doing to make them feel less dysphoric? Like,
yeah, you can play around with words. Are a big thing. Like sexuality happens 90% of it in the brain. And so it's like, play around with calling your junk not a pussy or not call it a cock, see how you feel, or call it something else. Or when I was first like coming to this realization, then I would wear like a binder while I was having sex, or even just like using a strap-on that's boxers versus like a strap,
like
exactly.
A strappy
or
one,
like where it feels more like women's underwear. So there's lots of things that you can do. And you know, someone told me too, like even post-transitioning, you think a lot about what you don't have, and that's what causes you the dysphoria. There's this nice thing of like, after getting top surgery, I don't have to think about my boobs all the time. But when I'm having sex, I'm still like, okay, I haven't gotten bottom surgery. I don't know if I really want to. And so there's some dysphoria there. I don't know. One of my friends was like, for so many people thinking about bottom surgery, they're only thinking about sex, but like sex is like 2% of your life.
Totally.
And like 90% of the time it's like, do you want to walk around with a dick? You know, like, and you literally have, for trans dudes, you walk around, it's not like a cis male where it like shrinks down and gets bigger. Like it's the size. There's a pump, but that's the size. And so it's like, do you want to walk around with a 5-inch dick between your legs all the time? Like most people, or a lot of people don't you know? Yeah. So that was interesting. And that was one of the things we talked about trans guy camp, actually. Of just like, we had a talk called Cock Talk.
Perfect.
And people are just sharing and like normalizing these kinds of things. But I think for anyone questioning any part of themselves, just let yourself question it, because the answer could be nope.
Yeah.
Like, but I think what gives us so much anxiety and what is like, making it in society this big evil that people are like globbing onto, or a culture war thing, is the idea that nobody is the same person that they always are. Like, you know, I've met people who have transitioned or detransitioned, or maybe not and I think people think of detransitioning as like, see, you were totally wrong. But sometimes it's just like, oh, actually I'm changing my pronouns, or actually I do want to wear more feminine clothes. Like, it's not just about like boobs and a dick, you know? It's like, for some people it's the levels of your hormones, but like, I think we're just afraid, because it has become such a hot button topic, to talk about the nuances. Because I'm sure there's a lot of queer people who will be upset that I even mentioned detransitioning, but it's like, I've met trans people who have used that term to identify how they feel.
Totally.
But they are not like, oh, I shouldn't have transitioned. It's just like, they changed how their perception felt, and then they changed how they identified. It's a fluid concept.
Totally. I mean, also goes without saying, we should be able to do whatever we want to our bodies.
Yes, as long as you're not harming. I think, literally, when I think about America, like, America is just, do what you want, just don't bother anyone else.
Yeah.
Like, your rights end where someone else's begins. So, like, you are allowed to be whoever you want to be, as long as it's not hurting someone else.
Totally.
And I think people then would be like, well, I don't want men in the bathroom. I'm like, it's not hurting you for somebody to fucking pee next to you. You know what's hurting me? Hurting me is being in a men's restroom. It's like a torture cell.
And there's poop on the floor.
Yeah, there's poop on the floor.
You know who's actually hurting here? Me. Trans men. No, but actually. Okay, this was so good. Do you have anything to plug that you want to say?
Watch the stuff we've been talking about is on Second Try, or the first episode of New Guy Tries is on YouTube.
Totally.
So if you have any more questions about this, or you want to hear about it, you can watch it there, or you can go to my Substack, because I am a writer as well, and it's called What Are We Even Doing Here?
Amazing.
Yeah.
And it'll all be in the description below. Follow Ash on all of their platforms, and all of that will be down there too. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you.
This episode was sponsored by Curé. If I'm going to put my things in my girlfriend's bag, I'm going to make sure my girlfriend's bags last a lifetime. And with Curé, that's possible. Curé is the ultimate solution in protecting and preserving your purse collection. We maintain our shoes and our cars and even our bodies, so why not our purses? These are investments, and Curé can make sure that they last a lifetime. Plus, if you ever want to resell, Curé makes sure that you will get top dollar for your bag when you go to resell it. There's a limited supply available, so go to mycuré.com to get your leather care kit today. That's mycuré.com. The best way to make your handbag last forever.